Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're going to go back to the JRC, but first, the disclaimers. If you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, pertinent links are in the description box, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive, where we get 99.9% the bulk of our material in regards to the JRC from. We got the article in there written by Neuroclastic, where they interviewed over 800 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. The one that got so deep under the JRC's skin, they actually threatened Neuroclastic with a defamation lawsuit. Neuroclastic politely, through lawyers, told them where they could go. Please read the article and share it. If we could get that viral, that would be fantastic. We got their GoFundMe linked in there because unlike the JRC, we are not made out of money, unlimited resources, or for some bizarre reason I can't understand, unlimited amounts of power. Give what you can. If you can't, that's perfectly okay. Share it. I know Neuroclastic would definitely appreciate it. Trigger warnings, folks, when we do talk about places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center or Agape Boarding School for Boys, you are going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you do got young children present, please go ahead and utilize the headphones. Also, the channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We do use profanity and speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and watching this, parental supervision is advised. Alright, first off, folks, a round of applause for myself. I made it to the 5th video today. I am mentally, emotionally drained and utterly exhausted. Just reading through this, having to go through each sentence, taking it this slowly. I don't know if something's just kind of triggering me different going through this particular overly long 55-page freaking comment. Hey, JRC, Autistic Self-Advocacy Network did it better. Just saying. Just saying, bro. You do not need to repeat the same reply every single time. This is not a text chain letter. The Grim Reaper's not going to pop out of the ground if you just send them a nice 2-paged comment. Saying is all. Especially when it comes to these people in particular, less is more. And I don't mean less is more in your version of word salad. I mean truly concise, less is more. Right? Just saying. Okay, so let's go back to the sentence after the last one. In fact, RM emitted an average of under 3 AB and 3 SIB per week between August 1st, 2003 and August 30th, 2010. It appears I'm going to have to repeat myself again. As a person that was a part of one of the very last generations that was subject to corporal punishment, my good behavior only lasted as long as the threat of violence, in my case spankings, hung over my head. Here's the thing about kids. Eventually, as the memory of the punishment begins to fade, and let's face it, teenagers or people in our tweens, it was usually fairly quickly. Once that was gone, unlike their shot collar, and wasn't sitting above our heads like Damocles' sword, a couple things would happen. First off, the memory faded from our heads. It's no longer really impacting us in regards to decision making for our very reckless daredevil and brain dead behavior we were that all pretty much doing at the time. Like creating homemade cannons filled with bottle rockets, lighting them all on fire, and shooting them at each other. Yeah, that kind of thing. Okay? What usually followed in a wake once the memory of the pain began to fade away, and we were no longer preemptively under that threat of violence, then the anger and the teenage rebellion would take hold. And the whole never-ending refrain that poor parents suffer from everywhere of, who do they think they are? They cannot tell me to do this and this. Fine, I'm going to do this. And the next time, more reckless behavior. They could possibly end me in a coffin. But it's going to be even more exaggerated and more dangerous. An act of anger and rebellion. And thus we would go around and around and around. The reasons why all his behaviors are gone and stayed gone and became less was he was still under visual threat. JRC. Okay? Now let's go back to that same generation of teenagers. If during that time, after corporal punishment belt for being reckless, stupid, and almost getting ourselves killed, instead of just doing it and then they go back to their business, they were then about 3 feet away from us at all times, with said belt in their hands, watching our every move. Well, that's going to have a dramatic impact in regards to that reckless behavior, isn't it? But the thing is, that's not realistic, nor humane. Okay? I'm demonstrating a visual point for people who are lay people so you can understand what's going on here. Put someone under constant surveillance with a never-ending Damocles sword, a visual threat of violence that is literally attached to their bodies and can be used against them at any time. That is probably going to affect how often they engage in those behaviors. What it doesn't do is stop those behaviors entirely, because it can't. We are what we are. There is not a medicine or a treatment program under God that's going to take away all those behaviors completely. Reality is we can get it to an understandable baseline. We can teach people like myself when we're young what the signs are when it looks like I'm getting ready to go down the slide into full physical violent meltdown. And if I act quickly enough with self-coping mechanisms, can maybe delay it, or it's never less violent. I'm not going to kid you guys and say it is, because mine's also informed by other diagnoses, but you get what I mean, right? Now, the real experiment would be, like my generation of kids, if afterwards they would remove that device from them. Not just that, but like the parents who can't watch you 24/7. You also remove the cameras, all the things that provide constant threat. And you give it a time period. We'll be week and a half. About how long do you think it is before those behaviors come back? For us kids, it took less than a damn week. Okay? I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. Blind emotion makes one stupid. I'm going to say it. Blind rage becomes teenage rebellion, becomes we in an endless circle of the dumb. That becomes much embarrassing by the time you're age 40. And is brought up at things like family Christmas. Okay? The behaviors disappeared because RM was under constant surveillance and constant threat. When the threat of violence is literally stuck to you as a physical object, you're constantly observed, and somebody always has the remote control to your own personal torture device. Yeah, under threat, those behaviors are going to get limited. They'll never disappear entirely because I'm 40, folks. I've brought my behaviors to far and few in between. There are times where I've gone years without having them, but I'm not stupid or naive enough to believe that it won't happen down the road because we are what we are at the end of the day. That's simply reality. Okay? I don't see what I want to see. I see what's there. My optimism comes from seeing what's there and trying to make realistic, slow little moves to hopefully get things to change for the better down the line. Okay? You have that threat of violence hanging over your head. You're under constant surveillance, both from cameras as well as care staff that is always about at the very most 3 feet behind you at all times. You're gonna fucking behave. Okay? Much like you're going to be in with your parent for the rest of the night after the spanking. You're not going to do anything stupid. Remove the threat and the surveillance, the behaviors come back. Because the punishment model cannot deal with the root. Okay? The root is the triggers. If you do not deal with the triggers directly, you are never in any real meaningful way going to have an intervention that's going to help bring those down to a baseline. What you're going to have is a kid that masks like hell because they're under constant threat. When that threat's no longer there, wouldn't you know it, all the things you've been suppressing behind the mask come out like an avalanche. Now, the JRC would tell you, well, that's because the device is gone and that's why they went back to their behaviors. They're not 100% wrong on that. However, it's the reasons they think they're right that is incorrect. Stay under threat, you're going to mind your P's and Q's. Threat does not end, however, in long, actual, meaningful changes to overall behavior. You just act like you're on your best behavior until you no longer have to be. And when you don't have to be, all the things that have not been dealt with, as well as all the feelings you've been suppressing because of being treated like a zoo animal or a lab rat, it's going to come to the head. and the years of psychological damage and therapy and all the expensive money and interventions just to deal with the mental health of having survived such an environment coming from someone, you guys know my history. Yeah, there's a price. Okay? The punishment model never leads to permanent changes. The punishment model never leads to overall long lasting changes in behavior or even a willingness to have long term changes in behavior because the violence that has been visited on you, yeah, anger, a whole lot of justifiable anger, right? Yeah. If you don't deal with the actual things that are causing the behaviors all these neurotypicals are so damn scared of, then nothing you do is going to have any permanent, lasting, good changes. This is Basic Logic 101. Threats and corporal punishment only work as long as the threat and the memory of pain hangs in your head. You remove the threat, the behaviors come back because punishments cannot address triggers, but they can create a few more. We're going to go ahead and close on that, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So, folks, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe. Please don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time. And as always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye, everyone.